I never thought sleep could betray me so violently. Last night, just like countless nights before, I dreamed of him again, the stranger with the shadowed eyes and that cold, half-smile that made my chest tighten in panic and desire all at once. The dream started the same way it always did. A dark room, a sudden knock, and then him, leaning casually against the doorway like he owned not just the house, but my nightmares too. Then this morning, reality punched me in the gut. A knock on my door. Strong, deliberate. Hesitation tore at me, but something in my gut told me it wasn't a prank or a salesman. Slowly, I opened the door and there he was. My heart stalled as if caught between my ribs, a mixture of terror and fascination rooting me to the spot. His hair was tousled, eyes sharper than memory, lips just curved enough to tease a smile that promised things I wasn't ready to name. You! My voice came out as a whisper, shaky, betraying me instantly. He tilted his head, studying me like a painter observing an unfinished canvas. I didn't think it would be this easy to find you, he said, voice smooth and confident, yet with an almost imperceptible tremor that hinted at something deeper, something vulnerable. I stepped back instinctively, almost tripping over the welcome mat, but curiosity anchored me. You're real? All this time, I thought my voice broke. The words didn't matter. Seeing him here, in the living room I had so carefully arranged, blurred the line between nightmare and reality. Dreams are messy, he said, stepping closer, the scrape of his shoes on the hardwood loud in the sudden quiet. And maybe they were just a warning. I swallowed, unsure if I should laugh or scream. He smelled faintly of rain and cigarettes, oddly familiar yet intoxicating, a scent that belonged somewhere between danger and comfort. The air between us felt charged, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. I don't understand, I admitted, clutching the doorframe as if it were a lifeline. Why are you here? How did you even— I've been waiting, he interrupted softly, almost shyly, as he finally stopped a few feet from me. The stranger who haunted my nightmares had a vulnerability I hadn't noticed before, a subtle slump in his shoulders that softened the sharp edges of his presence. Waiting to make sure you're safe. Or maybe waiting to see if you'd notice me outside of the dream. My heart slammed against my ribs. Safe? Him? The same person who appeared in the darkest corners of my subconscious, staring at me with that unnerving mix of challenge and longing? My mind was a hurricane of confusion, desire, and fear. Why me? I breathed. Why in my dreams? He chuckled, a low, warm sound that vibrated somewhere deep in my chest. Because you notice things, even things you think you don't. And I've noticed you, always. His eyes locked on mine, piercing yet tender, and suddenly the room felt smaller, like the world had shrunk to the space between us. I wanted to step back, to retreat into safety, but some magnetic force kept me planted. He was closer now, and the heat from his body brushed against mine, faintly, almost imperceptibly, yet it sent shivers down my spine. You shouldn't be here, I murmured, trying to mask the flutter of my pulse, the undeniable pull I felt toward him. Maybe, he said, leaning just a fraction closer, the air between our faces thick with unspoken tension. But I needed to see you, and I think you needed me too. I opened my mouth to argue, but words failed me. There was no room for rational thought, no place for the fears that had ruled me for weeks. All I felt was the sharp, exhilarating edge of reality pressing against my nerves, a dangerous, intoxicating closeness that made my breath hitch. He smiled then, a real smile, softer than I'd ever imagined, and it shattered something inside me. I'm not your nightmare, he whispered. I'm here to be your pause, your breath, the part of your story that doesn't hurt. Somehow, the impossible had happened. The stranger from my nightmares, the man I'd feared, craved, and couldn't forget was standing in my living room, and I didn't move away. I wanted to, I should have, but every nerve in my body demanded that I stay. And so I did. He didn't move closer, but the tension between us was a living thing, stretching and curling in the air. My heart raced in a way I couldn't control, each beat screaming both warning and invitation. I wanted to step back, but I couldn't, and he knew it. "Do you trust me?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper, the corners of his lips twitching like a secret joke. I hesitated, and for a moment I thought about running. But I didn't. Something in his gaze, raw, honest, and hauntingly familiar, made the idea impossible. I don't know," I admitted. "That's okay," he said, tilting his head with that same lazy confidence that had haunted my dreams. "I'm not asking for certainty, just presence, just a chance." The words fell between us like fragile glass, sharp but delicate. I could feel my walls crumbling, little by little, as I studied his face, the way his eyes softened when he looked at me, the subtle curve of his lips that promised laughter and warmth, the faint shadow of vulnerability beneath his striking confidence. "Just a chance," I repeated, tasting the possibility, letting it roll around in my mind. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to take it. For the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. The storm that had raged inside me finally loosened its grip. He smiled, a full, unguarded smile this time, and it was like sunlight breaking through clouds I didn't even realize were still there. "You're really here?" I murmured, almost to myself. "I am," he said, stepping closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him, close enough that I could see the tiny imperfections that made him human, close enough that my body betrayed me, leaning in without my permission. I closed the gap instinctively, drawn by something older than fear, stronger than logic. His hand brushed mine, a casual, almost accidental touch that set every nerve in my body on fire. "I've waited for this," he said quietly. "Longer than I probably should have." The truth in his words, the raw honesty, made my chest ache. My fingers trembled as I reached out, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead, a gesture so intimate it shocked me. He leaned into the touch, eyes closing briefly, and I realized that the person who had haunted my dreams wasn't a monster, wasn't a shadow meant to terrify Mayhay, was something I had been craving without knowing it. "You're not a dream," I said softly, voice trembling with relief and wonder. "You're real, and I think I've been waiting for you too." He opened his eyes then, shining with something I couldn't name but wanted desperately to hold on to. "Then we're both late," he said, his smile tinged with mischief. "But maybe it's not too late." And in that moment, the fear that had tethered me for weeks melted away. I laughed, a short, shaky sound, and he laughed too, the sound deep and warm, wrapping around me like a blanket. It felt absurd, it felt terrifying, it felt perfect. We spent hours just standing there, talking in whispers, sharing fragments of ourselves that had nothing to do with dreams or fears. The more I learned about him, the more I realized that every nightmare, every sleepless night, had been leading to this. A strange, improbable meeting that somehow felt destined. By evening, the room was bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun, the shadows long and gentle. He reached for my hand, holding it as if letting go would undo something essential. And I didn't pull away, not even for a second. "I'm not leaving," he said, voice firm yet tender. "Not unless you ask me to." "I don't think I ever could," I admitted, feeling a warmth I hadn't known was possible bloom in my chest. There was no rush, no drama, just the quiet realization that this stranger, this boy who had haunted my darkest dreams, had become the closest thing I could imagine to home. We lingered at the threshold of the living room, hands intertwined, smiles that were shy yet certain, hearts beating in a rhythm that spoke louder than any words. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I understood that life didn't need to be perfect to feel like magic. Sometimes it only needed one person willing to step out of your dreams and into your reality. That night, sleep didn't bring nightmares. Instead, it brought warmth, the kind that wraps around you, steady and unyielding. And when I woke the next morning, I found him still there, curled up on the couch with a blanket over his shoulders, his presence as comforting as the sunrise streaming through the windows. "Morning," he mumbled, stretching slightly, still half asleep, the familiar mischief dancing in his eyes. "Morning," I replied, feeling a strange, wonderful peace. The fear was gone. The longing was gone. All that remained was him, and somehow, that was everything I could ever need. In the end, I realized that the stranger in my dreams hadn't come to haunt me. He had come to remind me that even the most terrifying things could be transformed into something beautiful. All it took was courage, trust, and the willingness to open your heart when the world seemed determined to close it. And for the first time in a long time, I believed in happy endings, not the kind written in books, but the kind that lived and breathed, quiet yet powerful, in the small moments between two hearts that finally found each other. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.